Welcome back. Vern Buchanan says he is not too worried about the so-called blue wave, but then why is he running so many ads months before the campaign season begins in earnest? It could be he is not leaving anything to chance. The Suncoast may have gone for Donald Trump big time, but Margaret Good's victory over the congressman's son shows local Democrats are motivated. Now, we asked Congressman Buchanan to join us at the trapezoid to talk about the race. His campaign manager told us he wants to wait until the Democrats choose their candidate, and we'll talk to them in a few minutes. But first, let's talk about the landscape with Jacob Ogles, the political editor of SRQ magazine. And Jacob, my first question to you is the fact that Vern is running ads this early, and as one of our viewers just pointed out to us, he doesn't even say in them he's a Republican, tell you a lot about his concern this year, this cycle.
It both relays the concern he has about the cycle, but also demonstrates the strength he has as an incumbent. So it's a balancing act.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it is interesting that, as you pointed out, he's not really running with the Republican brand on him in this type of political climate. That's telling for an incumbent. But he also is able to get on the air. He's got a war chest that really he's been building for years because he hasn't been worried about a November election for a long time. And he's got some personal wealth. So he's going to be able to go on the air and stay on the air and drill in the message of his own resume.
All right, our conversation on the congressional race in the 16th district continues. Welcome back. We are talking about the race for the 16th Congressional District, and joining us for more is Jacob Ogles, the political editor of SRQ magazine. So talking for a moment about Vern Buchanan, as he pointed out to us, he has won this district by 20 points last time around. On the other hand, he is running ads, incredibly, that says he is independent. Independent from what is the question. So my question to you is, given what we hear about a Democratic wave and the generic ballot shows the Democrats leading about 7 points, do you think that Vern really has something to worry about?
I think Vern has something to worry about. I wouldn't rank him as endangered quite yet. But I do think that this is a climate where he can't sit on his hands. He can't just save his money in his war chest and expect to coast to victory in November.
The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee is targeting this congressional district, though.
For now.
They don't do that, a lot.
No, that's true. Now we'll see how well their endurance is. There's probably 6 or 7 congressional seats in the state of Florida that have the potential to be competitive, and I think the endurance of the DCCC is going to play a big role in just how competitive this race is.
Because they can win back Congress, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they could win a congressional district like this, at least now.
Right. There's 3 fairly easy pickups in South Florida for the Democrats. If they win those, it'll be the first time that half the Florida congressional delegation is Democrat since the late 80s, since 1986.
So when we're talking about the 16th, you have 2 Democrats running, David Shapiro and Jan Schneider. Jan Schneider has run 5 times. David Shapiro ran for the State House a couple of years ago. He is raising an impressive amount of money. He is getting the backing, as we're going to see later this week, of people like Gabby Giffords.
Yes.
What's your take?
I think that, honestly, Jan Schneider was recognized as a standard bearer of Democratic values for some time, particularly back when this race was considered non-competitive and she was running against Katherine Harris when nobody would take her on. But right now, I think people want to see a polished candidate. I think Democratic establishment leaders in the area have greeted Jan Schneider with a range of polite dismissal to impolite dismissal. Because
it has a practical impact right now. The Sarasota Democratic Party cannot officially back David Shapiro right now because party rules are you can't do that until after a primary. Jan Schneider's position would be primaries are good for a party.
Yes, and in a real sense that's true. You have the 2 Democratic candidates on tonight, and you're not the only media that's going to put special attention into the Democratic primary and wait to interview Vern Buchanan on another day. That's the good thing about primaries in terms of attention, in terms of enthusiasm. David Shapiro will walk into the November election, presuming he's the nominee, having already had people vote for him a few months ago. Vern Buchanan is going to be relying on people voting for him 2 years ago.
How would you characterize the state of the Democratic race at this point?
The Democratic race is playing out, but I think that there's a clear favorite. And in a lot of ways, it's running the clock out and making sure that it doesn't break into a civil war, much the way that the Hillary Clinton-Bernie Sanders race ended up dividing the party in ways that hurt voter turnout in November.
Right. We'll have to leave it there. Jacob, thank you very much. We are just getting warmed up. Our conversation on the race for the 16th Congressional District will continue after a quick break. Welcome back. Democrats have repeatedly targeted Vern Buchanan over the last decade. They have come close a couple of times, but with the talk of a blue wave, is this the year? And joining us for more are the first of two Democrats vying for the Democratic nomination, Sarasota attorney David Shapiro. David, welcome to the Trapezoid.
Oh, I'm enjoying it. Thanks for having me, Alan.
It's our pleasure. What is the case to fire Vern Buchanan? If you saw his ads, he says he is independent, he loves the environment, he is battling the opioid crisis. He has influence in Congress. He's on Ways and Means.
Well, first of all, the independent's a little bit of a stretch. He's pretty much voted 98.8% of the time with the Republicans. As for firing him, I have been representing people in this community for nearly 30 years, helping working class families, battling corporations and insurance companies. So I completely understand over the years their concern for affordable health care or lower cost of health insurance. I understand their concerns and fears that they may lose Medicare and Social Security over the years. I also understand that the veterans aren't getting what they deserve and what they need, and that seniors are concerned about the rising costs of prescription medication. None of these things have been addressed. In fact, just the opposite. In terms of the Affordable Care Act, Congressman Buchanan voted at least 16 times to repeal it with nothing to replace it. That would effectively put my clients and thousands of people in Florida 16 in our community without any health insurance at all.
Is the problem, though, the dynamic of taking on an incumbent who has such a vast campaign reserve and as much personal wealth as Mr. Buchanan have, that he is on the air baking in this message of independence and care about the environment while you're busy doing what candidates usually do, and that is trying to raise money to mount this campaign and get your message across later in the game?
Well, that's exactly right. We need to have enough resources to get our message across. In terms of all the money that he has or what he's doing right now really is going to be inconsequential down the road, and I'll tell you why. What I have learned that people have been calling the blue wave, it's more of an enlightenment. People are very, very engaged, and by that I mean they're doing the research. They realize now, maybe than ever before, the importance of our elected officials on their lives. So these TV ads, the mail pieces, it's informative, but it's not going to be enough. People are going to check the record. They're going to find out how Congressman Buchanan actually voted. They're going to look at my record in terms of what I've accomplished here in this community. Hopefully they will. I'm counting on the fact that they'll talk to people I've worked with, worked against, the judges that I've been in front of, the nonprofits that I've been on the board. These are the things that I think people are doing. They're calling it a blue wave, but it's more or less an engagement or enlightenment.
You don't think it's problematic that he is able to bake in that message while you hit the phones and raise the money?
I think there'll be an opportunity for me to address some of those things or that Congressman Buchanan is stating. Like right now, for example, when he talks about being independent, I'm here and I will tell you that his voting record was about 98.8% with the Republican Party. So that wouldn't really be considered an independent. In terms of the opioid crisis, let's find out how much funding Congressman Buchanan was allocating or advocating for the treatment of opioid addiction. These are the things that we're going to have to bring out, and he'll have to defend his record.
Talk about the landscape of this particular race. Obviously, many Democrats, after Margaret Good beat James Buchanan a couple of months ago, really saw the possible out there. But that is one district in the middle of this area that the president won by 4 or 5 points. When you're talking about Manatee County and southern Hillsborough County, we're talking about a real red area. So what gives you the confidence, given how Vern has done over the past several cycles, that you can do this?
You know, I've been out there talking to people a great deal, and I've been, engaged with Republicans, non-party affiliates. Keep in mind that about 27% of the people in Florida 16, which includes Sarasota, all of Manatee, and some of Hillsborough, 27% are non-party affiliated. That's number one. There's only been one race in this Florida 16. That was in 16. So it's really a new district, and I think you're seeing that reflected in Mr. Buchanan's ads. So when I'm talking to people, they're saying, look, there's problems in Washington. They're not working together. What they're really looking for me is not so much my label as a Democrat, but will you work together with other people across the aisle, with the people in your party to get things done? They're tired of this fighting. That's the impression I've been getting.
But you also have people on both sides who say, you know what, we don't want our people to work with the other side. Democrats look at what's happening in Congress and what the president is doing. They're pulling their hair out, and they just want somebody to reverse everything that Trump and Congress has done. And I would imagine the Republicans feel the same way, that they are finally getting done everything that they have talked about for years.
You know, I think there is a percentage of those people, we call them the base of the parties, but there are a lot of people who've had enough in terms of that kind of divisiveness. And that's what we're gambling on. And frankly, I think that's what Congressman Buchanan is reflecting again with his mailers and such. So it's always sort of the darkest before the dawn. I think people are ready to start moving forward, working together. You know, we tried it this way, it's not really working out. There are a lot of people in Congress that are trying to work together already to accomplish certain things like the Affordable Care Act.
We have to leave it there. David, thank you very much. Good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you. I hope to see you again soon.
All right, thanks a lot. We have to take a quick break, and then when we return, the other candidate, Jan Schneider, in a moment. Stay with us. There are two Democrats vying for their party's nomination, and joining us now is Jan Schneider. Jan, welcome back to the Trapezoid. So take a moment and tell us why you think Vern Buchanan should be fired.
Vern Buchanan is for wealth. I think that's the major divide in this election cycle. Republicans are for wealth, Democrats are for health. He voted for the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, $1.5 trillion for wealthy corporations and the ultra-rich, of which he is one. He voted to privatize, or to turn Medicare into a so-called premium support voucher system. He's not very strong on Social Security. Everything he does benefits the wealthy.
But he has been in office over a decade now. He won last time against you in 2016 by 20 points, I believe. Some people will say, you know, I believe you've run 5 times. Why run again?
This, I know, is a red area. But finally, the voters are coming around. I ran on single-payer Medicare for all against Katherine Harris in 2002. Now, it's supported by 58% of the country. I think the voters deserve better than they're getting.
Margaret Good stunned the area when she won the special election a couple of months ago against James Buchanan, and we asked David Shapiro the same question. That has added a lot of momentum to the Democrats, but this is a big congressional district, and you're dealing with Manatee County, which is where Republicans far out-register Democrats, and Southern Hillsborough County, despite what we hear about a Democratic wave and that the generic ballot has the Democrats up by 7 right now. What gives you a confidence that there could be that much of a turnaround?
We have to make the wave, and we have to build for the future. Now, the motto of our campaign this time is not only the wealthy deserve to be healthy. This is the second oldest congressional district in the country. We want, as I said, single-payer Medicare for all. Don't privatize Medicare. Don't turn Medicaid into a block grant system. And I feel really strongly, having military in my family, Don't privatize the VA healthcare system. In all of these respects, Vern Buchanan is not, I think, serving his constituents. There are things we agree on, obviously. Now, as far as turning it around, last time we ran a very brief, abbreviated campaign to try and defeat the racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic liar is what I think of the current incumbent in the White House. Vern spent close to $1 million. We spent about $30,000. We did better than the other Democrats in this district.
But let me ask you this, and I take all of that, but as you talk about that, the name of the game, maybe too often in our political system, is money. And your primary opponent, David Shapiro, is out there doing what a lot of Democrats do in raising an impressive amount of money. Do you have the same kind of system to raise money?
We have started that. Unfortunately, I had a bad car accident.
I know that.
About a month ago, which was when I was starting. But we have name recognition. One thing, last time that was for Hillary Clinton. Well, not for Hillary. If they wouldn't vote for Hillary, we tried to get people to vote against Trump. But it did get me a lot of name recognition in this district, poll recognition.
But when we're talking about the primary, Mr. Shapiro will have the money to advertise around then. You know, it's unclear whether you will. And when people go to the polls, that they're seeing things, they're getting things in the mail. That's the name of the game.
Well, they will get things in the mail. We have about $100,000. We've been on social media constantly. We're up to about 60, 80,000 reach each and every week. We've been making use of volunteers. I do at least 2 events a day, and our campaign does at least 3. So we will be out there. Of course, money is important. And of course, the corporate party is in favor of money. But I am convinced we're Democrats. We have to offer the people something to vote for, not just against. And no one's going to buy an election against Vern Buchanan.
Jan, thank you very much for being here. Good luck on the trail.
Thank you.